it's within the last year, and I've talked about it on the show that I read, and I hadn't read it since high school, and I forgot pretty much everything. But I read again the great George Orwell book, 1984. And I guess the premise of the book that we see, there was so much in that book that's coming true today. But the main premise in his book that we see playing out right now is, quote, he wrote in that book, quote, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. So if you use your math by correlation and by extension, who controls the present controls the future as well. And what we have seen and what you all know is that governments have been exposed in recent years, big time, as working relentlessly, relentlessly to distort public perceptions, just like in the book 1984, perceptions of what's happening now, perceptions of research, and especially perceptions of the past. And the extreme left political supremacists, the radical activists, the extremists have discovered that they can lie about the past, not just the government, they can lie about the past. They can create 100% non-scientific based narratives like we saw during the COVID pandemic. They can basically make up and sell any crazy idea they can dream of that will match their agenda, and that large swaths of Americans and people throughout the world, for that matter, mindless people with zero critical thinking skills, will just accept it. And not only accept it, but they will make it their creed, their code, their reason for life, their religion, if you may. They understand now that we have a willfully ignorant populace. And it extends across all political ideologies. There are some people on the right who believe different crazy things. Just to give you one example, I get these emails all the time. A lot of people believe that Nancy Pelosi and Gretchen Whitmer have been convicted secretly in military tribunals and executed already. People believe this crap. Just like they're trying to make us believe that surgical mutilations and chemical castrations are good for kids as young as 5 years old or something like that, or anybody really. So they understand now that we have an ignorant populace, and they know that with the compliant media they have, who will promote it and sell it, and with big tech stepping in not only to sell it, but to crush any dissenting views. And then we have compromised politicians who are either ignorant themselves or because they're such radicals in their agenda, they'll pass laws to respond to these false narratives. Again, remember, all of this is based on 100% lie. It's fake news. So not only is it being pushed and believed and accepted as truth and even religion, but we're passing laws to further this stuff. It's crazy, but the left has learned this. Just think of what we've learned just in the last few days from Durham's report, his testimony, and now the breaking news today that I'll talk to you about another about those whistleblower documents about Joe and Hunter Biden that I'll tell you about. But just think about the Russia. We had a censorship in Congress on Adam Schiff. He still to this day continues to promote the false Russia narrative. And they spread like a virus, which is why I call the woke movement the WK, the woke 19 virus. That's why I call the transgender movement the transgender 19 or TG19 virus. These are viruses that infect people's minds, and they spread just like a virus would spread. They don't spread through aerosol, through droplets. But they seem to spread through word of mouth, through social media, and implant themselves in people's brain. People are believing things that have no basis in Rhode Island, and politicians are acting on narratives and implementing public policy that have no basis in reality. I mean, they've got it figured out. When a narrative is relentlessly promoted, repeat, repeat, repeat. That's what marketing is. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. And then when all other views are expunged, like in George Orwell, and like we did see in America before Elon Musk took over Twitter, ignorant and compliant sheeple will fall straight into line. And they'll go to any extent to protect their narrative, to pretend that it's true, and to make us believe that something that's false is true. And they'll go to any extent, even if that means harming or even criminalizing or worse. And I won't even say what worse is, or worse, innocent people. Now, point in case, here's a Rhode Islander, Michael Flynn. He's from Barrington, Rhode Island. You know, he worked for Trump. He was a Democrat, but he worked for Trump, and he was out to get deep state. So the deep state had to counter and get him. We now know that, you know, with the Durham report, that the Russia was false, that the Mike Flynn original prosecution that cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think time in jail, if I remember, if not, but all kinds of legal problems. He's a Rhode Island guy, and he has since filed a malicious prosecution lawsuit against the government for what they did to him, for acting. Even the corrupt Justice Department was part of that cabal to protect the false narrative of Russia. Michael Flynn was caught up in that. He was innocent. Everybody knows it. They knew it, yet they prosecuted him anyway to make it seem like the narrative was true. Now he's going to have his day in court, and it looks like that day in court is not going to move to Washington, D.C. like the government wants it to be, but it's going to remain in Florida, where he originally filed it, and where he'll have a much better chance with a much more open-minded jury down in Florida. But this is the extent to what they will go to.